All right, so I'm assuming it's pretty safe to say that Black Clover episode 166 is easily probably like, if not the best animated episode of Black Clover, one of the best animated episodes of Black Clover, up there with like the finale of the Zagrid fight, as well as like the final, confrontation against Veto. Like, I really do feel like this episode was done so well. Like, there are so many good things that they did. The episode starting out was kind of odd because I didn't expect us to get like a piece of the mimosa fight. like like that threw me off. Like, I'm a huge fan of her, but it was just weird. I was like, wait, like she's getting like an extended scene. It totally threw me, like knowing what today's episode was, being like more of the conclusion of the stuff with Noelle and Vanica, as well as Yami versus Dante. It was just like, Mimosa was definitely the last thing I was expecting in the beginning of the episode. She did have a little moment though, I mean, where she hit the ground and like all the vines came out. I thought that was kind of dope, a little bit. But like, onto the actual like important or more important parts of the episode, I should say, is the way they did the Noelle stuff. It almost sucks because like it almost sucks because it got so greatly overshadowed by the stuff that was happening in the second half of the episode with Yami, where like I really feel like a lot of the stuff that was happening with Noelle versus Vanica was done really well. Like the whole like point blank Sea Dragon's roar looked amazing. The whole thing with Laura Pesca remembering her time with Undyne, I feel like was done really well. Or Undine, as everyone else calls her. I've always called it Undyne, like even before Black Clover. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to switch, but the whole thing with Laura Pesca and her memories. One weird thing that I do want to take note of is I don't think it was said like this in the manga, but it was weird when Majecula was talking about, oh, so this is what happens when I curse a water spirit. Like her saying a water spirit, it kind of leads me to believe that there's more spirits, because if there was only the one, she would have just said the water spirit. Could be looking way too deep into that, but it's just something that I thought about when I was watching the episode.
Really makes you think.
And then like one more, like it isn't really major, but it's kind of minor, like a minor thing that I want to touch on with Noelle and Vanica is something that happened in the manga when Noelle was like on the ground and like her grimoire was open and all that. In the manga, it looked like she was getting another spell. Like it kind of like, I'll put it up so like you guys can see it, or so you guys can like remember kind of what happened. But it looked like she was going to get another spell. But in the anime, the whole grimoire is just lit up, and this could just be because whenever you're using a spell, your grimoire is lighting up. So like, she's still like, granted the Valkyrie dress isn't completed, or like it's definitely like way in worse shape, or it's damaged or whatever, but the spell is still active. So it kind of makes me think that, I know a lot of us were thinking that Noelle could have gotten a new spell during the end of her fight with Vanica, but it kind of looks like Valkyrie dress was just on and the book was glowing because of that. So that's kind of like points for the anime for filling us in there. But on to the most hype part of the episode by far was the confrontation between Yami and Dante. The fight looked so good. They did such a good job with all of like their extra added scenes and all of that. I really feel like the transformation of Dante actually going into his 80% form, it was done pretty well. Like just how how it like looked, and how they had like his horns come out for that little sequence. That was definitely mad dope. I also did really enjoy the parts how they did like how they animated Dante's his singularity, his gravity singularity towards Yami. There were some parts of when like him and Yami were going back and forth where it looked kind of weird, but overall I feel like it looked really solid. 'Cause I mean, I feel like all like super nice anime sequences will always have those one or two scenes that look just a little bit odd, but for the most part it looked really crisp the entire time. My absolute favorite part of the episode, obviously it is involving Death Thrust, but it's not exactly the part where he actually did Death Thrust. There was like this moment where like when Yami was like charging up the Death Thrust, there was like, I don't know, it was like he had like this like black like dark magic going up his arm, kind of like to show he was charging it, but it wasn't like straight up lines. It looked more like brush strokes or something. It looked so dope, and I really did enjoy like that effect that they put on it leading into the Death Thrust, which of course was a hype moment in itself. So like it all just looked really good. And then when they had the moment where like after he did it, and then like Dante's like, he's regenerating his whole body from like torso to like body up, and it's all connecting together. It just looks really creepy. And then he's like going into this bigger, longer Dante form, and like his bigger beast form where he doesn't really like to use his body magic all. saw like that. Or I guess not really a beast form, but it's like it looks beastly. Like it looks beast like. Honestly, I didn't really think about this until like saying the word beast, but it kind of reminded me of the Beast Titan from Attack on Titan. There's even that like moment where he like grabs rocks and just like throws them. It kind of like I don't know. And then the arms are long. I'm not the only one. Can you guys see that a little bit, a bit of the Beast Titan in there? I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into it again, but I got Beast Titan vibes for some reason.
まあ初級は様子見で目指すはパーフェクトゲームだ
Like in this exact moment. But you know, and then of course like the whole scenes of Yami still like struggling against Dante to kind of like see if he can still fight him or still find a way to beat him. And like this is one of the things that I really do like about Yami's character is because not a lot of the other I can't really think of any characters in Black Clover that fight like Yami, and not saying like just because he's a magic swordsman, but like during the entire time Yami was analyzing all of his options against Dante, which is one thing that I really have always liked about when Yami fights. Yami is always thinking and like strategizing, and I feel like Tabata does a really good job of like illustrating that. And it was cool that the anime studio was able to kind of showcase that really well about how Yami's thinking like, well, if I'm too far he's gonna throw rocks at me, and if I get close and cut him he's just gonna come back to life, or he's just gonna heal himself. Like I always really do enjoy it when characters kind of like will plan to themselves, and then us as the audience do get to see that. That's always like a cool thing that characters do. In addition to like at the very end when Yami finally does sit down and realize like, you know, I really do need Asta to like, you know, help me win, and he even calls out to Asta's name to, you know, like saying he needs his like help, or that he can't do without him. And like I was one of those people that was so skeptical in this moment, because I was like, this is not the first time he said his name. He's definitely said his name. And like in the manga they couldn't really show you all like that. Like they couldn't obviously do the whole like collage of different clips of Yami referring to Asta, just calling him brat or kid or idiot or any of those kind of things. So in the manga I was like, I really did go back and try and look at every single interaction those two had, and he really never said his name. Like this was actually the first time he said his name. So like I kind of feel like that wasn't a coincidence. I definitely feel like this was something that like Tabata had planned from the very start, that like he didn't want Yami to say Asta's name until like a moment of absolute importance or great need. But yeah, and it kind of just ends there with, you know, Yami and Asta charging into Dante together. Really, I'm even more pumped for next week because like hopefully we get more of this same like animation and stuff going into it. So like overall this episode was easily, like as far as how it was adapted, it was a 10 out of 10 for sure, especially with like the two parts that they combine. I feel like the Noelle stuff will get downplayed a lot in favor of the Yami stuff, but just how they were doing a lot of Noelle's attacks and like her energy looked really, really dope. Despite a lot of people saying that I am a Noelle hater, that is false. I do give credit where credit is always due. So I mean, you know, I gotta give her props. They made her look really dope in this episode, but I mean, of course it doesn't compare to how they did Yami. I do have some questions for you guys. I am very curious to know how you guys feel about the Noelle and her spell thing. Like I'm pretty sure like if you don't know what I'm talking about, then it's fine, but if you're one of the people who's reading the manga and was like, it really does look like she's getting a new spell, how do you feel about how they did it in the anime, and that the explanation could just be that her grimoire is just glowing because Valkyrie dress is just active? That's kind of like what I got when I was watching it. So I am very, very curious to know what you guys think about that, as well as how did you guys feel about the episode? Did you enjoy how it was animated? Did you enjoy how it went? Like let me know, was this your top Black Clover episode for like at least how the animation looked? Because I definitely feel like top 3 is this one, the Zagrid fight, as well as the fight with Veto. I know, you know, a lot of people I know that like the studio took a big risk with that Asta versus Ladros fight, but we're not going to talk about that episode at all. We're not going to talk about that one. So yeah, let me know all that stuff down below, as well as make sure you guys like the video, as well as subscribe to the channel for more content coming up in the future. I hope you guys all enjoy the rest of you guys' day, and I will see you all in my next video.